guys, Ryan Fowler here with Inner Masculine Live and the Inner Game Group. Today we have Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis, Tim Costello, and me, Ryan Fowler. We have a great show today. We are going to show a clip from a talk given by, I guess, the modern forefather of studies on self-esteem and ego and whatnot, psychologist Nathaniel Branden. And this clip was found by Jordan Kurtz. So, Jordan, why don't you set up the clip and then we will dive in. I listened to about 15 minutes of it. It's really great what I've heard so far, but I'll let you set it up.
Yeah.
Oh, so, yeah. Introduce yourself to you.
Yeah, I'm Jordan Kurtz. I'm with JordanKurtzHypnosis.com. I help people end their limiting beliefs and unlock their full potential so they can live much better lives. Tim, if you wanted to.
And let's have Tim introduce himself too real quick.
Everything just went away. I'm Tim Costello with ClearThatTrauma.com. And just like Jordan, we all do the same thing. We help you live your better life by removing the things that hold you back.
Yep, big, powerful tools. Yeah, I thought you were just being stoic, Tim, but you were frozen. And also, you know, we really focus not just on the subconscious mind, but that's our big thing is optimize your subconscious mind because the science is out there. 90 to 95% of our behavior is determined by our subconscious mind. So if you want to learn more about that, because listen, if you don't have this down and you have bad subconscious programs, you're going to struggle the rest of your life. So the first step is understanding how our subconscious mind works. And guess what? You are in luck because if you look in the lower left-hand corner of my screen, innermasculine.com/free-ebook. This ebook is on how our subconscious mind works and why it keeps you stuck. It's a 1-hour read. It gives you, there's no fluff at all. It just gives you the blueprint, the fundamentals, all the facts on how our subconscious mind works, why it keeps you stuck. Just go there, pop in your email. You will get the book absolutely free. Also, at the end of the book, if you have questions, if you're struggling internally, limiting beliefs about any of the topics we're talking about today, at the end of the ebook, you will find a way to book a free, no cost, no obligation, 30-minute consult with me. I'll help you any way I can. Yes, at the end, I'm going to, pitch you a hypnosis session. But hey, if you want 30 minutes of advice, I will help you any way I can. I won't pull any punches for 30 minutes, and you got that. So that's at the end of the ebook, how to get that. And so now, Jordan, go ahead and set up this clip, and then we're going to dive in.
Well, Nathaniel Branden, for context, he dated Ayn Rand back in the day. And so his philosophy, he's a psychotherapist. And he's really into this idea of objectivism and self-esteem. And the reason I like him because he draws a lot of parallels between this idea of objectivism and understanding reality and looking at reality objectively and the nature of self-esteem and kind of being able to look at your own. He calls it the conscious. I think he really means the unconscious, but we'll talk about that when we get into the video.
He talks about the soul too. So Ayn Rand is atheist and objectivists tend to be atheist. Is he atheist?
It's
atheist
it's likely. And I think
or agnostic.
I like the parallels he draws between self-esteem and objectivism. And I can't explain it as well as he does. We'll elaborate on it, but I think he speaks very brilliantly on the topic. And I think that it relates so heavily to, if he only knew what we know about hypnosis, I think he would have he would be doing it in his practice because he worked with clients like we do, but I don't think he ever did hypnosis.
He didn't have the big nuclear powered tools we have that causes shifts like that, man.
But I think he correctly identifies a lot of the same issues that we identify with clients. I just don't think but he approaches it from a conscious perspective.
Yeah.
And I think we approach it using an unconscious tool. But I don't think he would I just don't think he knew that the unconscious tools existed. So
well, yeah, and this is how it is with modern psychology. They understand a lot of these concepts, but they don't have the tools to work on the subconscious mind directly.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to dive into it pretty darn quick. what he's going to be talking about is what we help people with all day, every day. We really get you to believe in yourself, your intrinsic massive value, ability to, the more we do anything, the better we get until we have enough skill to get whatever we want, which means failure is just practicing, learning, and growing. All of that combined with, social awkwardness, just whatever people are struggling with, we get it out of you. We literally change your deep core beliefs to what this guy is recommending. And of course, first you have to know what the best beliefs are, why they serve you. Now, my self-hypnosis program is done. I've been, just offering it to my my former clients, but actually next week I am going to show you a part of the video in some of the 7 hours of video. I'm going to show you an expert about belief systems from my program. I got it professionally edited and shot in the studio and all that. I'm really proud of it. So we're going to go into belief systems next week, but man, you got to know what the best belief systems are. And then you need the tool set to get these belief systems down in your core. So this gentleman, we're going to play this now. He's going to be talking about really self-esteem, ego, trauma, all that. It is all subconscious belief systems. And it's 10% conscious too, but it's really mostly subconscious. And man, if you incorporate this in your life, we know from experience doing it to ourselves, it changes everything. So let's go ahead and hop into this. Very, very, very informative clip. And also his book, The Six Pillars of Self-Esteem. Now, I haven't read it, but I know it's a foundational work and recommended for sure. So it's on my list.
Yeah, and if I may, the inspiration for this idea came from, I listened to on Audible, the Six Pillars of Self-Esteem this week. And I was trying to find a good video on YouTube to describe what I thought. And we might do another show on this later, but he talks about I was looking for another video on YouTube about the Six Pillars of Self-Esteem, but they didn't really address anything subconscious. I didn't really like a lot of the videos.
Yeah, he's talking about it here. He talks about emotional trauma, which is subconscious and all that. So,
well, I meant there were people who were covering the book, like doing little animations and things, and I didn't really like the way they were covering it, and so that's why I tried to find something that we could talk about. Really
go straight to the source. This is Nathaniel Branden himself.
Yep.
All right, so here we go now. Jordan, you have seen this entire clip. I have not, so just let me know when to stop. But I know at least 10 minutes is pretty good.
Yeah,
we're playing it at 1 1/4 speed. Here we go.
I saw something else. Another idea came to me. I had an expression that I used when I was very young and didn't use much since, although the idea is an interesting one. I had an idea called ego values. And this idea came to me in the following way. I saw that there were people who operated not as if their rationality was their most important guardian of.
Just a quick definition. Ego is your sense of self-importance. And it's almost synonymous with self-esteem. We'll keep going.
Their survival and well-being, but that other things were. Popularity, money, sexual conquests, material acquisitions of one kind or another, degrees. And the idea formed in my mind. I remember running over one day to talk about this. We lived about a block and a half apart. People who treat other values, and they may in fact be values, as if they were the most important means of survival and successful adaptation to the world. In other words, they treated them as if they had the status of rationality with regard to survival. In other words, if I can get you all to like me and admire me, that is the most important thing in terms of my ability to survive and operate well in the world.
Isn't that interesting? And isn't that true? People put all their emphasis on these things because they tie their self-importance subconsciously, literally, to survival. We'll keep going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You see people their entire lives. And the thing is you actually don't need these things to have self-importance. You can give it to yourself subconsciously and then get it because you want it, but not because you need it or because you're going to be a loser without it, or subconsciously you need it to survive, etc. We'll keep going.
The things he's talking about are external validation. He's talking about acquiring and impressing people for external validation completely. Now, every single one of us need to impress somebody, because we want to get hired somewhere, or we want a customer or something. So somewhere we have to impress upon somebody what value we bring to the table. But that's the value we bring. That's not our internal value. And the things he's talking about.
When you tie external to internal, when you think they're the same thing, it really messes you up.
Correct. What he's talking about is popularity, acquiring material things, that kind of stuff, so that everybody will be impressed with you for those things. That's the wrong wiring to go after.
Why do you guys think he ties that to survival?
Well, remember, objectivism has a lot to do with happiness is the moral reason that we exist, only to be happy, period, which is a little bit true. But the reality is these guys are saying, I need to fit into society and people are going to be impressed with me if I have all this stuff.
Yeah, I think he mentioned survival, though, didn't he?
Yep, he did.
Yeah.
Well, you're surviving in the tribe.
Now, I have an answer, but I want to hear what you guys say. Why do we tie, everyone admiring us, getting all these things? Why do we tie that? Why does
it's the alpha leader in the tribe? If you're in the tribe,
exactly,
they have to look up to somebody, and he thinks it's because of the material wealth, when reality it's true value and leadership that people really are attracted to.
Well, and we have evolved. We were hunter-gatherer tribes for a long time before modern society, and before agriculture-based civilization.
Some still are.
And if you don't have a tribe, your chance of survival is extremely low.
Right.
That's why they had tribes in ancient times. That's why people are in cities or in towns, they congregate together to enhance survival. If you're kicked out of the tribe, your survival goes way down. If you have low value in the tribe, you get less resources. Your chance to mate and reproduce goes way, 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 way down. If you're at the top, it's optimized. You get the most protection from your warriors, your bodyguards, lieutenants, etc. You get the most resources, you get the most mates, and that is all about survival. So they're actually, in ancient times, that was true. It's actually kind of true and kind of not true now. If you're at the top of a pyramid, you're going to get more mating chances. That's how hypergamy works. Women want the guys at the top. But other than that, it might facilitate your survival to a bit. But in modern society, for the most part, you're not going to die if you have a job pays $15 an hour, you're going to be able to scrape by. You'll be just fine. People go to all this excess that they really don't need for survival, but he's linking it to survival. And I think he's correct. And this is why. Anything else before we go on?
And my reading of because he's talking about, they seem to have ego values versus he's calling them like rational, like self-esteem values. And I think, and my read of that through the hypnotist perspective is they don't feel like they have intrinsic value in themselves. They don't believe they are good enough. So they have to seek it in external things. And he seems like he's and so when he's saying ego values, I think I read that as external validation of, I want other people to think I'm cool.
Yeah.
I don't. And so,
well, that's all about the tribe. Yeah. If other people think you're cool, you're at the top of the tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and so he's saying that because he's a psychotherapist, he would advise his clients to try and find that approval through self-esteem, meaning I give myself approval and validation. But he was finding that people were having these things, these approval and validation coming externally rather than internally. So I think he's speaking to that phenomenon.
Yeah. And for our audience, we're really looking at the building blocks here of why people do what they do, why they're happy, why they're sad, why they're successful, why they struggle. And, we're looking at such core fundamental stuff here that if you understand it and adopt it, it makes a difference between having a life of abundance, being in control, feeling good about yourself, believing in yourself, and then just going out and having a great life, or it can make the difference between that and an absolutely horrible life, you're a criminal, you end up in prison, you have all these other struggles. You can literally take someone from the bottom of this spectrum and change their core, and then they move towards the top. I've seen people who couldn't hold down a job go to 6 figures in 2.5, 3 years, just fix their core, and then 3 years later they're making 6 figures. I have a friend just bought his first house. He used to not be able to hold a job, bought his first house, has a gorgeous girlfriend, very sweet girl, earning 6 figures now. You fix the core, it just, and that's really, so our audience understands, why are we talking about this? That's why we're talking about really core fundamental stuff that leads to big positive changes in people's life if you understand and implement this. So we will.
Another point is that, remember, this talk is, if you see the date on there, this is 1996.
Yeah.
So these are not, like, we didn't come up with any of these ideas, really.
Yeah, these are really timeless concepts. This is how our brain works for
and
long,
so
long,
people,
long time.
You know, there's a lot of people who studied this probably a lot longer than all of us have, and like, we're just kind of reviewing what the experts are talking about. I mean, I think we are good at what we do, but like this, we didn't invent a lot of these concepts. We've just kind of connected the dots together.
We found tools way more effective than they had.
Right.
But understanding this and then knowing how to use it is going to make a bigger difference to your happiness and success in life than anything else. Getting the right subconscious beliefs makes a bigger difference than anything else, bar none. That's why we do this show. Let's keep going.
Or if I can acquire a nice house and a nice car, this will be the manifestation of my survival ability. So I called these, in those years, ego values of my first rough sketch, by which I meant they are values that are being treated as if they were as irreplaceable as ego, in the sense of ego is the capacity to think and judge and evaluate, okay? Later on, I call these defense values, but the core idea there was that people could choose other things that they would try to derive a good sense of security from, other than reason or rationality. In fact, nothing was more rare, I saw, than to find a human being whose sense of internal security and centeredness, or self-esteem as I learned to call it, was grounded in the fundamental mental processes by which they operated.
You're good enough just for who you are. That's what that sounds like.
That phrase, what he just said there, I think that's why I wanted to go over that clip, because he's like, I found all these people were looking for external things instead of this objectivist, internal, I am good enough for who I am belief. Because I think he's trying to understand, and let me know what you guys think of this, Reed, but I think he's trying to understand and explore why people reject this notion of objectivism, why it's difficult for their subconscious mind to accept that. Because he says that, we should just be logical and rational all the time. Why can't people just accept that naturally? Why is that hard? Why does that not? That's
a big mistake there, because that's only 1/3 of our brain. And I think cerebral cortex, the limbic system is all emotions, fight or flight, all of that. That is literally a 1/3 of our brain. You can't turn it off.
Yep.
So I would be rational. Go ahead.
I would be terribly shocked if he didn't run into a book or two by Carl Jung in his studies.
Oh, of course. I'm sure he's
right. I mean, you would think so, because you can hear some of the things he's saying, but I'm not sure he completely understood everything Jung was talking about, because it seems like there's a couple of dots missing as he's explaining it. He's like right on the edge of getting it just right.
And unfortunately, I think he says a lot of really good things here, but a lot of scientists are reductionists, meaning they throw out stuff that matters and they focus on one thing and ignore other stuff, and it gets them in trouble. You know, 1/3 of our brain is rational and objective and logical. You're going to ignore the other 2/3. That's not a rational way to look at it, to do things.
And hello to Money Mitch and Reduco. Good to see you guys here today.
All right, let's see. Hey, what's up? Yeah, hey, Reduco. Good to see you, my man. All right, we'll keep going.
You see, there is this in common, for sure, between Rand's ethics and all of my writings on self-esteem, and you'll certainly see this in the 6 pillars. It's a process approach. It's not a content approach. It's all about how the mind processes experience. What is the mind's relationship to reality? It's not about the content of consciousness, it's about the processes by which consciousness operates. Her ethics is a very psychological ethic.
Sorry, you want to pause?
I think, and this is where I think he means not conscious. I think unconscious is a more accurate way of saying it. He's calling it conscious mind. He's like, how do we process the events?
Right.
But I don't know if, like, I'm not sure if he literally means the conscious the way we describe the conscious mind, or if he means the conscious as how we describe the subconscious mind. Because he says he's trying to analyze how the mind processes events. And to me, that means, how does the unconscious mind filter the processes? When a trigger comes in, how does the unconscious mind sort that and then have a response of anxiety or fear or something like that?
Yeah,
and so,
100%.
And that's something we should explain to our audience. So here's how our subconscious works. Our subconscious mind communicates to us through instinct, intuition, emotion. Now, what we're not conscious of is, why did my subconscious give me this intuition at this moment? Why is my instinct telling me this? Why are my emotions? Why am I having an emotional reaction right now? All the data or internal, external stimulus, subconscious programs that lead your brain to give you certain emotions, certain intuition, certain instinct. That reasoning is behind the scenes. We don't, we can find that out, but in the moment when you feel stuff, have intuition, the reasons you're giving it are hidden. But the emotion itself, the instinct itself, the intuition itself, that is coming from your subconscious. We don't know why, unless you really dive in and understand how to figure that out. But everyone feels these emotions, instinct, intuition coming from their subconscious. That is subconscious right there.
So one of the things we do know about the subconscious is it constantly evaluates your environment, looking for patterns that it may recognize and will generate some of that gut feel or emotion, or maybe even some excitement or intuition, right? I mean, Ryan, you always talk about your gut feel, right? There's a reality, that second brain in there that is reacting to, and it's probably your subconscious causing some reaction in your gut that tells you to behave a certain way or be wary of something because you may get physically or emotionally injured.
Yeah. And so a good way to illustrate it is, our conscious mind is 2 + 2 = 4. We see the whole equation. Our subconscious, you just see what's to the right of the equal sign, 4 or 25 or whatever, what's on the right side. We don't see the equation that leads to the result. Our subconscious gives us the result. We don't know the equation that led to that result. And typically it is a far more complex equation that leads to the result. Our subconscious mind, if you meet someone, our subconscious mind notices the dilation in their eyes, their breathing pattern, their heart rate, a lot body language, everything else. And you'll get a vibe, or you'll get a gut feeling about that person. It notices all these things your subconscious mind doesn't even focus on, and then gives you that gut feeling. So it actually does a lot more processing than your conscious mind. And we'll keep going.
My psychology is a very philosophical psychology. Because in both cases, what is shared is that the key issue is, this confronts you. What does your mind do about it?
Trigger response.
Yeah.
That for me is where the real jumping off start comes. There is, in a certain sense, no, quote, objectivist theory of self-esteem. There is an objectivist definition of self-esteem. But the whole idea of self-esteem as a theory of motivation, about which I wrote, in those days, I wrote in the Objectivist newsletter, so it was the objectivist concept of volition, the objectivist concept of that. But self-esteem, as soon as you go more deeply in it, leaves the realm of philosophy and becomes the realm of psychology when you begin to think about it in motivational terms. Because now you're into empirical observation, you're into a whole other kind of process of arriving at knowledge. But the point I want to make is that what became very clear very soon, and I couldn't figure out how to conceptualize this, was it was obvious, and this was 1954, the year that Galt's speech, or one of the 2 years that Galt's speech was being written. And I knew that I was originally beginning to think about, before I had a real definition of self-esteem, as a unitary thing. But I began to realize that it seemed to have two components, and you needed both of them, or you didn't have a well-realized self-esteem. And one had to do with that idea of competence or efficacy, and the other had to do with feeling like a good person, or what we call self-worth.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
So one day, and I wrote about this in Judgment Day, we began talking on the telephone. We got very excited, and I ran over there, and I wanted to do some brainstorming. I was struggling very inarticulately to express this, and Ian kept laughing at me, and I couldn't understand why she was laughing. And she said, well, wait till you see what I say about self-esteem in Galt's speech. And she explained the concept of able and worthy, which was what I was trying to find some way to articulate. So from that point on, we, of course, talked endlessly
You want to
about
pause?
self-esteem.
Yep.
And he says that I have the concept of able and worthy.
Yep.
I'm able to get what I want, and I am worthy of having
I have massive value just for who I am, and the more I do anything, the better I get until I get enough skill to get what I want. Same thing said in different words.
And in case it was unclear, when he's talking about Ayn, that's Ayn Rand, and I
Ayn
believe
Rand,
he's talking about, is it Atlas? It's either, I think it's the Fountainhead that he's talking. I think it's John Galt's speech, and that's from like Atlas Shrugged. So,
I thought, yeah, that's Atlas Shrugged.
yeah, and so he's describing that Ayn Rand was talking about self-esteem, being I'm worthy to get what I want, and I'm good. What was it? I can get what I want, and I'm worthy.
I'm able and I'm worthy.
So
And
you start to see those
worthiness
connections.
is tied. Do I have value just for who I
Yeah.
am? I deserve it, etc.
You know, that worthiness, like Jordan was saying earlier while the clip was going on, is about I'm good enough, right? There's a little bit of that. I am good enough to go get it. There's an ability and there's a worthiness there. And that also takes down to I get what I want, or I deserve what I get when I get it. And Ryan just mentioned that. So it's important that this guy is talking all around not having subconscious trauma that we talk about all the time that most of us have. Say, Ryan?
He goes into trauma later.
Yep, he does. But right now he's talking all around the things that we do day in and day out.
And these two things, able and worthy, if you get that in your core, you now have an optimal belief system that leads you to more or less have a great life.
Absolutely.
It really does. This is the core. This is the foundation. But the trick is to get it in your subconscious, which is get rid of toxic shame. I'm not enough as I am. I'm not good enough. I'm incapable, worthless, undeserving. I'm not allowed to get what I want, or I'm not capable, or I can't keep it, or getting what I want is bad or wrong or sinful somehow. However it applies, 90% of people are going to have some form of this, 90% plus, and it messes up their lives. It leads to drug addictions, procrastination. 95% of humans procrastinate to some degree. It leads to all of these issues. You just get your core right, and it fixes a ridiculous amount of maladaptive behaviors, and it leads to much better relationships, much better success. Hey, you can have a successful business, and then it crashes and burns for whatever reason. I have a friend had a multi-million-dollar business. He did surveying for oil and gas companies. Biden came out with his new directives going towards green energy, and then all the oil companies are like, no more exploration, and his business just went, it nosedived. There's nothing he could do about that. Well, he has good self-worth. He's like, I have value just for who I am, so although that sucked, he was okay. But if you're someone who places your value on your accomplishments, you are then devastated by any failure. And you're worried about anything that could go wrong or fail. And you go around with anxiety, and you're procrastinating because you don't want to face certain things. That's what procrastination is about. You're self-sabotaging. You got to drink alcohol at night to calm yourself down, or do some other sort of maladaptive behavior. What we're talking about here is core to so many things. I got this in me, and without even trying, my income doubled within 2 years. And then I eventually wanted it to double, and then it doubled again. And you're just not held back you're not this fragile person whose ego is very fragile and very insecure. If things go wrong, now you feel terrible because it means you're not good enough. No, you're just like, you got this solid core, and it gives you so much strength when you really get this down. I am worthy and I am able, period.
Absolutely. You know, and I'll tell you something. Ryan said 90 to 95% of the world procrastinate. I think it's 100%.
Yeah. Well,
even me, hang on. Even me.
So.
Now, Ryan, you've often described me as always known me as having good inner game kind of thing and all that kind of stuff. Very nice of you to say.
Well, you're a hard-working dude. You procrastinate.
So here's an instance where you talk. I'm telling you, 100% of the world procrastinates in something.
Yeah.
So my radiator on my car started leaking, and because I'm a cheap son of a gun, I'm going to fix it myself because I can save about $1,200 because it's one of those German automobiles that they really don't want you working on their automobiles. So they design them and engineer them in a way that seems to take an easy task and make it really difficult. So I ordered the core. The radiator sat in my garage for 3 weeks before I finally got up the guts after watching the video 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 times to make sure I had all the steps down. And I dove in, and then 4 hours of real work later, it was replaced and beautiful. But I procrastinated for a few weeks because it was such a new thing and I wasn't sure I could do it. Did I have the tools, that kind of thing? I knew I had the strength to do it, but I didn't know that I had the ability to do it. Man, I feel great when that thing was done. In fact, I talk every time I go, hey, you want to go get in my car that doesn't leak now? Hey, you want to go get in my car that doesn't leak now?
Nice. Well, and I will say, if I'm honest, there's a couple small things I procrastinate a little here and there myself, such as my glasses. These glasses broke about 4 days ago, and I need to get them fixed, and I haven't yet. And but honestly, that's kind of the exception and not the rule. I mean, listen, man, and I know it kind of sounds like blowing my own horn. I moved to Mexico City. I phased out my old business. I started a new business. When your core is right, there might be a few odds and ends here and there. You procrastinate a little. Sometimes it's just really low priority stuff.
100%.
I have another set of glasses here, for example, but if you're just constantly like crippled and you're procrastinating to that degree, then there is something internally wrong. Now, the reason everyone may procrastinate maybe a tiny bit is our brain is wired to like the uncomfortable and to like the comfortable, the familiar, and not like the unfamiliar, the unknown. And that's what you're talking about here, Tim. Everyone has that. That is actually instinct. That is not a subconscious program. It's not fearing the unknown or the unfamiliar or it's uncomfortable. It's actually not super strong. It's maybe 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10 tops. When I moved to Mexico City back in January, for about 2 weeks beforehand, I had constant anxiety, but it was like 3, 4 out of 10. It was low level. Then I got here within 2 or 3 days. I was good.
Yep.
So everyone's going to have that. That's instinct, but it's not super severe and it's not crippling, and you can choose to move forward. If you have anything more than that, then something is going wrong in your subconscious. And guess what? That can be fixed. And 100%. If you incorporate these belief systems in your core, it is fixed. Bottom line.
Check out Reduco's comment. If you're not good enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. 100%.
From Cool Runnings, that Disney show.
Good movie too.
And bobsledders. That's awesome, man.
Yep.
And that is that's true, because I'm not good enough or I'm good enough just as I am is a core subconscious belief. And and our subconscious programs are not changed by outside events. They can get triggered by outside events, but once they're in us by age between 8 and 14, well, even earlier than that, these programs start solidifying. Once they're in us, outside events do not change the beliefs. Maybe very slowly over time, partially, but that is it. If you want to change them, you got to go in and do what we do, which is work directly on the subconscious, change these beliefs. That's what makes you feel good enough. It is not getting all the money, getting all the success, all the fame, all the adulation, all the sex, hot women, whatever. That does not make you feel good enough. Case in point, Marilyn Monroe, Kurt Cobain, Robin Williams. And I use those three a lot, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens of examples.
Yes.
We did a show last
other
week.
very successful
with
people
celebrities
like that.
It happens every day, man. It happens
all the time.
every day.
All the
Every
time.
single day.
Yeah. Chris Farley's another example. I mean,
Yeah.
Heath Ledger, who was a drug addict, played the Joker, one of the, that did the best Joker ever. I think he got an Oscar for it, but drug overdose. Well, why was he taking drugs? Well, because he had toxic shame. He needed to cover it up. That's why people are addicts. That's the number one. That is the only reason people are addicts, is they need to cover up their toxic shame. I'm not good enough. That is the core reason every addict is an addict. So,
Brian, do you want to move to minute 36? I think.
To where?
Minute 36.
136?
No, minute 36.
I don't understand. 1 minute 36?
No, 36 minutes in.
Okay.
21 minutes.
I thought you were saying 1 minute 36. So
No,
36 and how many seconds?
Just started at 36.
Okay.
Say more of what I wanted to emphasize. Now, in therapy, for example, as we define it as the faculty of being aware of some aspect of reality, it seemed to convey more of what I wanted to emphasize. Now, in therapy, for example, we are often struggling not to look at that which we most need to look at. So when it's most important,
Because we want to avoid pain, but we'll keep going.
to go more conscious, we get less conscious because what we are up against is painful or frightening. I mean, in the literal sense of consciousness, we don't look. We close our eyes. We introduce dimness where we should be introducing greater light. And so I wanted to capture the idea of operating in a way where we bring to what we are doing the kind of awareness and the level of awareness that the context requires. Sometimes that will involve or require a process of linear analytic reasoning. Sometimes it will require a kind of a contemplative, non-analytical observation of one's own internal processes.
And he's talking about making the subconscious conscious.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
most of our subconscious is not analytical rational. So that's where the contemplation, hey, what's this feeling mean? Connect to the feeling. What's my intuition telling me and why? Ponder that. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Something which for the average person is very, very hard to do. The average person finds it relatively easier to look out than to look in. Even people who are excessively and inappropriately preoccupied with feelings are very selective at what they will look at inwardly.
Because they don't want to face the painful feelings. That's just how our brain is. But
And whenever he
if you
says
do, you
looking
get big
in-
dividends.
And whenever he says looking inwardly, he means looking at what those unconscious, subconscious programs are.
Yeah.
And so he's describing how everyone seems to struggle with this at some point. Now, as the hypnotists, basically what we do is I shouldn't say force, but we encourage the client to look at the things that they don't want to look at.
I'd say
Let's
we
examine
guide
those
them.
things.
We
that
guide
again?
them.
What was
We
that?
guide.
So say it
We
again,
guide
Ryan.
them. Yeah, guide.
We guide them.
We guide them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's really what hypnosis is. When we do a session with you, we're really just guiding your subconscious mind to where it needs to go and to enable that catharsis or healing to occur. And I think,
and we're guiding your awareness too.
yeah. And so he Branden correctly identifies that process is required, but he probably takes the CBT approach, cognitive behavioral therapy approach of let's make this conscious.
That's the
He keeps
first
using
half,
that word.
and that's where they start falling short.
Yeah, it's
They
not
become
enough.
aware of it, but then they don't know how to fix it effectively. They really don't. They
Well,
have tools that are inefficient and work very slowly, partially over time, but they just don't know how to go in and fix it right away. They don't.
So let's look at the definition. Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, that's
That
130.
means we are using the awake, conscious, cognitive mind to try to analyze what's going on in our life. So that psychiatrist or psychologist sits in the chair opposite you and you talk about cognitively the things that you may understand. There's so much underlying that you don't understand that's causing you to behave that way. So what they do is they take these symptoms and they say, well, I've got this medication here for you to help you out with that. And quite frankly, the medications do help to a certain extent.
Sometimes.
But they never ever fix the underlying root cause.
Yeah, I was just watching a Big Think video, and there's this, I think, an NYU psychology neuroscientist, and she gives this great presentation. And at the end, she says, I can't guarantee this won't ever stop becoming an issue, but we have tools to manage it, essentially. And it's like, yeah, that's the problem. You don't know how to fix it. You don't know how to fix it. You know how to manage it, help it in the moment, which is helpful. So they can partially fix it over a long period of time. That's about it.
So I'll keep, so what we did, because I think we put the video a little past, like a couple minutes prior to where we started.
Skipped over where he talked about
trauma. which is fine. But for context, the first pillar of self-esteem is the practice of living consciously. And like, I would argue that that really ties in nicely with hypnosis, because when you have cleared all of the trauma and stuff and the bad subconscious programs, you're able to live consciously because you're not afraid of your mind anymore. You're not afraid of looking at the things you don't want to look at. And so he would argue that in order to have high self-esteem, you have to be able to live consciously. And I would argue that in order to live consciously, you have to clear those things in your subconscious mind that don't allow you to that are painful to look at, that don't allow you to live consciously. So my point is, I'm trying to connect all those dots together so that, it makes sense.
I'm just like, you know what? Okay, the techniques we use are very specialized, and we operate at a high level. We've, cracked the code, but to some extent, what we've been doing has been around for, 70, 80 years. Gil Boyne back in the 50s was doing versions of what we're doing now. And these guys have never found it.
Like, why haven't they talked? It's like, I feel like Gil Boyne and Nathaniel Branden, like if they had sat down in a room with each other, could hammer, we're doing it now, but like
I have my answer.
Yeah. Why is that?
Watch the Netflix show. It's not about hypnosis. It's about psychedelics, but it's called How to Change Your Mind.
Yep.
Back in the 1950s and 1960s, these universities were doing all this research on psychedelics, and they were making very exciting discoveries. Or like these different psychedelics, like LSD, for example, are people with big trauma. They're getting permanently fixed. This is crazy. This is amazing. Like, not everyone, but for example, 30% of people who took, I think, LSD said it changed their life forever in a very positive way, cleared trauma, etc. And it was like 80% had positive overall results, And so they were seeing all of these this amazing new promising drug. And then what happens? It's in the 1970s, I think, the United Nations comes out with some report or mandate, and nations all around the world outlaw these drugs or these psychedelics. And then they're replaced, with antidepressants that the science has since shown are marginally effective at best. Study after study after study, and they have lots of side effects. And that's why they're actually starting to do psychedelics now. But the only psychedelic legal in the United States is ketamine, which is addictive, and it's synthetic. So they put in a synthetic addictive because there's so much science come out that says these antidepressants, these SSRIs, pretty much suck. And you've been doing it for 20, 30 years, and they suck. The science has come out to say these drugs suck. They freaking suck. They're not very good at all. And so much science has come out that they, that's why they're shifting to ketamine now. Now, look at that. They had ayahuasca or LSD or MDMR, ecstasy, all these other things where the science is like, oh my goodness, it's so amazing, helps people so much. Outlawed in almost every country around the world. Now, you can infer from that, take those and replace with these multi-billion dollar industry where it's like you have to take our drugs every month, as opposed to the psychedelics, which were actually curing people so they didn't have to be on them the rest of their life, replaced with this new model that was much more profitable. Well,
what are you trying to say, Ryan? Follow the money?
These universities are funded by Big Pharma, and they're funded by these psychological associations. The reason these guys don't adopt these more superior methods, now some of them just don't know any better, but these guys are all products of universities, and at the university level, they just ignore or outlaw or whatever the more effective stuff because the system is corrupt. The methods we use now, we do them. I think we've refined, and what we do now is at a higher level than what Gil Boyne did. But honestly, Gil Boyne did some pretty amazing stuff. So Gil Boyne, back in the 1970s, 60s, 50s, etc., was already doing a lot of this amazing stuff, and these guys ignored it, and the universities ignored it because so. I think like Nathaniel Branden, I think a lot of these guys just didn't know any better. They got in their field and they just focused on their field. Yeah. But the fact that this stuff is out there, that it's been out there for decades, that it is there have been peer-reviewed studies showing what we do is far more effective than CBT, and the universities just ignore it. Why? Because they don't want to cure you. They want you coming to the psychologist every week. They want you to keep coming, Matt, keep paying. That's right. So I will be straight up. A lot of what they say I find very useful, but I feel low-level contempt towards I have no contempt towards Nathaniel Branden. I have no contempt like Andrew Huberman. He's a Stanford neuroscientist. He has a YouTube channel. I think he's a great guy. I think he's doing the best he can. I think he knows a lot of things I don't know, but the things I know, and I just don't think he knows any better. I think that's 95% of psychologists don't know any better. They're just kind of in their field. But overall, the reason this isn't bigger what we do is because it doesn't fit their profit model. And so for the industry as a whole, having been a product of that industry, having very, extreme depression, CPTSD, general anxiety disorder, having known what it's like to suffer and knowing that this industry intentionally ignores more effective treatments and thereby facilitates more suffering, I can't help towards the industry as a whole to feel a little low-level contempt just knowing at the core it's corrupt. Again, not individuals, but looking at the big picture at the core, it's corrupt. And you know what? That's going to change because they can only keep the truth back so long. We got the internet now. It's my life mission to go out and get this mainstream. Go ahead and try and stop me. I'll move to another country. I don't give a shit. Anyways, that was my rant. There's my Alex Jones rant.
Like this, everything he's talking about, like these are new ideas. And it fits together. All we're doing here is we're fitting the puzzle pieces together and showing this is how you fix your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind, A, exists, and B, it's the root. It's almost always the root cause of all the issues.
Yeah.
And so
the real question is, how long do you ride in your car with one flat tire? Not very long. You pull over and you use a tried and true method of either pumping up the tire, and if it doesn't hold air, then you replace the tire and you fix it. You go to the root cause. You don't go, gee, my steering wheel is acting all funny. I better fix my steering column. No, your front tire is flat. It's why it's making you jerk all over the road.
Well,
so when you get to the root cause, you now can drive smoothly down the road. What Ryan's talk about, what Jordan's talk about is we go to the root cause of why you have dysfunctional behavior. And dysfunctional behavior is described as anything that you participate in that does not serve you. Perfect. Period. We get to the root cause,
Perfect.
We fix it, and now that behavior can serve you.
Okay.
Right. Brian, well, you can move to 49 seconds or like 48 minutes, like 30 seconds, maybe.
48, 30?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right, moving forward.
I mean, it's all the stuff is pretty good, but just there are a couple moments I highlighted that I'm like, ooh, that.
By the way, just so you guys know, we are not medical professionals, but what we do is we get you to believe in your ability and value at your core. We're like subconscious self-belief coaches. That's what we are, not medical professionals.
That's right.
But
I'm not a
that
doctor.
does, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not a doctor, but I did stay on a Holiday Inn Express last night.
There you go. And you can save 15% or more by subscribing to Geico. All right.
That's right.
Because it doesn't fit a certain theory of how I'm supposed to be. Whether the motives are good motives, heroic motives, or bad motives, I'm not interested in motives right now. I'm talking about the fact that when we deny and disown and kid ourselves about what we are feeling, we drive the process underground. We make ourselves more unconscious about ourselves, and our subsequent behavior is less adaptive, less appropriate, less functional than if we were more aware. So
Boom.
it's actually
That's
imposing a limitation
right there.
on the efficacy of our mind.
You want to comment
That's
on
it.
that?
Impactful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and these guys are aware of emotions. They just don't know how to work on them directly.
Right.
They don't know how to
Yeah.
work on the subconscious.
It's like
directly
he's
fix
right
them.
there. It's like I couldn't have said
Yes.
it better myself. It's like we
No
bury
question.
it in the unconscious mind.
It's so
Yeah,
crazy.
but-
They understand this all. They just
Like-
don't know how to fix it.
And he explains it so well. His like his voice and his language choice is all so elegant.
Yep.
Like
How do we
it's-
fix this? Take Prozac.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, are you kidding me?
It's like, man,
Take a drug.
man.
That'll fix your belief systems. It's like, no, they're belief systems.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you keep going.
Yeah.
There's a couple more.
And the same thing, of course, can be with actions. Sometimes it's very hard to accept that we really did something once upon a time of which we are now ashamed. So we kind of don't make it fully real to ourselves. We don't necessarily deny it, but we keep it at a very low level of reality.
He knows it all. He's talking about shame right now. Keep going.
And yeah.
And
He knows it all except the techniques to fix it.
And it's when he keeps saying make it real, that's where he's tying it to objectivism. It's like understanding reality. It's like we don't make it real. What he really means is we don't look at the unconscious mind. So.
Yeah.
the problem with that is it's very difficult to correct the behavior that I have not fully made real to me. I have. It's very difficult to correct the mistake I can't own having made. I can't learn to behave better if I can't accept the fact that so far I've been behaving in such and such a way.
And that's Carl Jung right there. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll direct your life and you'll call it fate. But the thing Jung didn't say, what he should have said is until you make the unconscious conscious and fix it, it'll control your life and you will call it fate.
Yeah.
So again, this kind of denial and disown
It helps to make it conscious, but to really fix it, take it a step further.
of my own experience becomes a real roadblock to the clarity of my mind. Okay, now, I was challenged by saying in Judgment Day that in objectivism, there are very confusing messages. In some contexts, you get absolutely the right communications about how to look at emotions and feelings, but in others, you don't. An example, or a partial example, of a more, what I would call a rational approach to emotions, is in the characterization of Hank Rearden and Atlas Shrugged. Because his mistake is clearly that he spends a great deal of time ignoring his feelings and emotions, and yet, as the story develops, it's his emotions which prove to be correct and his belief system, which in certain areas is mistaken.
Bingo.
And in that characterization,
And that's now some of our emotions are incorrect because of bad subconscious beliefs.
Right.
But the reason he's saying this is our subconscious mind literally processes 1,000 times more per second than our conscious mind. It's our supercomputer, and it picks up on all sorts of stuff our conscious doesn't. So even if a lot of our subconscious programs are imperfect, it can still give us gut feelings, etc., from time to time that are just like spot on. And your conscious mind, like, why am I getting this gut feeling? That's stupid. You know, I'll tell you a story from my own life. I right out of college, I got this sales job that paid very well. I was probably making on average $1,800 a week back in the year 2000. And I became a sales manager, and the guy who had seniority, he was very inconsistent with sales. He would stop for a week, etc. So he expected to be manager, but instead he got fired because of his inconsistency, going lazy, etc. So I became the manager. Now, about a month or two later, I think a couple months later, he called me up, and he'd been pumping gas at the gas station as a job for the last 2 months, broke, and he wanted a job back. And honestly, when he's on, he's a very good salesperson. And I'm like, oh, I should hire him because he increases sales, and that increases my pay if my salesmen do better. And when he's good, he is very good. So I'm like, yeah, I should bring him back. And by the way, this guy got me the job in the first place. So I felt I owed him. And my subconscious was screaming, no, 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 no. My gut was telling me, no, no, don't hire him. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. Well, he was there for 3 weeks because I did hire him because I didn't listen to my gut. He's there for 3 weeks. And what I did not know is that he had set up a rival company, and his objective was to go there, offer everyone on my sales crew 1% of his company to come work for his company and steal my crew. My gut was screaming, danger, danger, danger. Now, we kind of found out, uncovered the plot, fired him, but really it made about half of my crew worthless because half of my crew was planning on taking the deal and leaving. And, I eventually recovered from that, fired those guys, got new guys in, had to retrain them, etc. But it's like, how did my gut know? Well, your gut listens to vocal patterns. It listens to all sorts of stuff. And my gut picked up on, he was deceiving me. He was trying to hurt me, lie to me. It picked up on something and how he talked to me. And it gave me a big warning sign. My conscious mind was like, this doesn't make it. I owe this guy. He got me the job in the first place. He is a good salesperson when he's on, but my gut knew. That's your subconscious with 1,000 times more processing power telling you stuff.
And Brandon was talking about in this video, he was talking about the guy having the belief system. To me, the belief system is, I am worthy of making money. I am able to do so. I am good enough to have the
that
money.
Will get your subconscious to work and make that happen.
Right.
The supercomputer we all have.
Right. And he's kind of describing from a rational perspective like that, but it's like, we have to be careful with our language because I think he prescribes it is rational for people to want this stuff. And that's fine, but you have to also believe in your subconscious mind that is okay. You can rationally accept that it's okay for you to have money and go after those pursuits, but if your subconscious mind doesn't also believe that, no amount of rationality is you have to constantly try and override that subconscious mind.
This very powerful supercomputer, you have to try and defeat it, and it's working against you, unfortunately.
Correct.
And if it has bad programs. Okay, we'll play a little bit more and then wrap it up. So
you can move to 56, 30 seconds. Yeah.
Okay, and this last part we'll play, but we'll listen to this and then we'll wrap it up.
Anytime you are, for any reason, good or bad, noble or ignoble, putting yourself into an adversarial relationship to reality, you are in conflict with objectivism.
Yeah.
That's my thesis, one of them.
And you want to
now we come to Atlas Shrugged.
Now we want our subconscious serving us and in line with reality.
It's it's not just reality, it's the reality of your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind creates the reality you experience. And so it's not just, and that's where I think a lot of that anxiety comes from, is when you're not willing to look at those unconscious programs, you're trying to hide from them, and that's where you get the addictions, the fear, the anxiety. That's where that comes from. And so it's not just, it's more than just living beyond. It's like you have to align yourself with reality. It's like you have to align yourself with reality, which is made through your subconscious mind. I'm trying to really show that
our subconscious is just perceptions and beliefs.
It's not it's not arbitrary that objectivism and self-esteem are the topic of this thing. They're intimately connected.
When I was, I'll tell you a cute little story. When I was a Walmart store manager, had about 550 associates. My market manager was training me and teaching me and things like that. And I'm a very objective person. So I had a hard time understanding how some of these associates were feeling the way they were feeling. Of course, I didn't know then what I know now.
Yeah.
But he told me one time, because I was talking with him and I said, hey, this just isn't reality. He says, their perception of what's going on is their reality.
Yeah.
And that hit me like a brick wall going, it doesn't matter what the objective world is saying. what that person is feeling, and I didn't know that word back then, is their reality. Just like you said, Jordan, they're dealing with all of those subconscious traumas building up. So when they perceive things going on in the real world, their perception is filtered by all of those feelings that they've gotten, all those routines running that tell them to feel a certain way. That helped me deal with associates a whole lot better. Now, if I knew then what I know now, of course, things would be even easier for me. But amazing, just like you pointed out, their reality is, or their perception of reality is their reality, no matter what we say it is.
And I want to point one thing out. This guy talked about being worthy and able, and also be aligned with reality. How does feeling you are worthy and able align you with reality? I have an answer. Do either of you want to weigh in, or you just want me to?
Well, I was going to
go ahead
real quick. For example, I was going to say, Tim says that your reality is like influences you. For example, when you set your background image as a brick wall and you say it hit me like a brick wall, is that a coincidence?
Little NLP there. Little NLP going on.
Every pun intended.
Anyway, go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, so why is that aligned with reality? I am worthy and able. Well, here's the thing. Each of us, now, we can wane philosophical about the human soul. I believe there's a human soul, but that I'm going to keep it with objectivism, science, all of that. Our brain is the most complicated known object in the entire universe. You look at a Ferrari, its complexity pales to the complexity of the human brain.
Right.
Everyone has that, and everyone has our subconscious mind, the supercomputer that processes 1,000 times more per second than our conscious mind. We all have this supercomputer. But like any supercomputer, it will run whatever programs are in it that it's told to run. Those are subconscious beliefs. When you believe I am worthy and able, you now have this supercomputer working to make that reality. And the truth is, we all have massive intrinsic value because every single one of us has this supercomputer. You see Sean Stevenson, 2 feet 8 inches tall, had a bone deformity, but he had a good brain. Didn't stop him. He became a multimillionaire. He got a PhD. He got $10,000 per speaking arrangement. He got married to an attractive wife, was a very nice lady. Didn't, because he had that brain. We all have that. The reason people aren't more successful isn't because being consciously smart, book smarts, other smarts, absolutely very helpful. But remember, that's less than 1% of our processing power. The reason more people aren't successful is because their supercomputer, their subconscious mind is full of bad programs, viruses, that is messing up that computer, and it is holding their potential back. When you get the good programs in, now you have this supercomputer working for you. You have the most complicated object in the known universe, the human brain, now firing on all cylinders instead of sabotaging all of that working against you. It's now working for you. And that is a force to be reckoned with. You just need to get the good programs in there to see that supercomputer reach its full potential. So because we all have this amazing potential, this amazing capacity, if we get our subconscious right, then yes, indeed, you are worthy and you are able, because you have this amazing mind and this amazing ability once you just get it on the right track.
Amen.
And that is alignment with reality right there. These are facts.
That's the real reality, not the perceived reality.
And like I said, I started reprogramming my subconscious 11 years ago. I didn't even mean to. My income doubled. Boom. And then it stayed higher. I had a couple years, Tim, when I was with you. We had 1 year we did very well.
Yep.
2 years we did pretty good. I was right under 6 figures for 2 of those 3 years. And then 1 year we did really well. Couldn't keep it. And honestly, I had massive anxiety that whole year. We did really well. Just massive anxiety all the time. Got it. Couldn't keep it.
Yeah,
so,
because you felt deep down as though you didn't deserve it when I knew you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was a wreck back then.
Yeah, Reduco, it seems like everything the West bans is good. I don't like words like everything, but I know exactly what you mean. They do ban a number of things that don't feed their profits.
Yeah.
Because if we fixed everybody, there'd be nobody taking many drugs.
Sean Stevenson was the inner game Yoda of our day. Love that guy.
Yes, no doubt about it.
Literally, you know.
P-Dub,
like Yoda,
good to see you here again. P-Dubs is here.
Good to see you, P-Dubs. Okay, so any final comments by you guys? We're kind of out of time.
I think we did good on this one. Really good. Good topic, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks. I like that. I like how this idea of hypnosis kind of flows into what I believe about self-esteem and objectivism and this notion of kind of like freedom. I really think that we've connected the dots through how it's a big idea, I think. And I really like that hypnosis is the ultimate tool to really express the self through clearing the bad subconscious programs to live the best you can. Like, it's no coincidence. Like, this is how you have the highest self-esteem, is through living consciously, and you live consciously through accepting, through clearing those unconscious programs so that you're not at war with yourself. And I think that is really like it seems like Ryan says it's the key to the human soul. I think it's like we unlock, like, I feel like we discovered fire in a way.
Yeah.
Like that's how I feel very often. I'm like, we've literally discovered fire.
I felt it was
again.
kind of a key to the universe almost.
Yeah.
So powerful.
And so if you're watching this right now, understanding that this is going to grow, because I think the more people that understand this, the more people they understand these concepts, the more popular they're going to get, because it more aligns with their own soul, and it all fits together.
Well, think about it. We have this show. It's a pretty low watched show when it comes to your typical YouTube algorithm of millions of views.
But it is a brand new show. Actually,
right.
For how old
hang on. Don't defend it. I'm making a point.
Okay.
Each one of us help people every single week. They will tell their friends, because their friends will notice they're different. And then their friends will want something done, and we'll have to train a few more hypnotists as we grow. So yes, it's just it's like not even into seed funding. It's like the three of us put $5,000 in the corner and said, let's figure out how to make this work. Right. It's a venture capital that hasn't even received any venture capital yet. It is brandnew.com. So that's a good domain, brandnew.com. Dibs on the group name.
That's probably already taken, but hey, if it's not, reserve that on GoDaddy today. If it's
right. So this is an inkling of a show, and one day somebody's going to realize and watch this show by accident, and they're going to say, hey, can you come on our show? And they're the people with millions of views. And now another 10,000 people will sort of know what we're talking about and start researching and going, oh, I want some help. Right. So this is just literally the beginning. We just discovered fire. We're learning how to stack logs.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the show started, I think, in March. So
yeah,
4 or 5 months.
Yep.
And I can think of no better way to spend my birthday discussing these ideas.
Happy birthday, Jordan.
You know, it's your birthday.
25 today.
All
Make sure you send your mother something. She did all the work.
That's
cool. All right, very good. So that is our show for today. Yeah, great show. Listen, we're showing you the core concepts that, man, if you get this, your life is going to improve massively. And we speak from experience. Every single one of us does have the human brain, which is the most complicated object in the known universe, most complex, and also has the most potential. And you optimize it, and you don't have to live a mediocre life. You don't have to live a life of constant anxiety, feeling not good enough, sabotaging yourself so you can never get ahead, not getting what you want, not feeling good about it. You don't have to put up with that. You can fix it and then have a great life full of achievement, success, but also feeling good, because achievement and success by itself, some people do that. They're still miserable. You know, you can have it all. You can get it. You have more power than you know. That's our show.